show, Living with Climate Change. Thank you for joining me. Today's show, we are going to discuss the upcoming United Nations Climate Action Summit in New York City on September 23rd at the United Nations headquarters. On a personal note, I am in the middle of doing I hope a 3-day water fast. And I think I'm mentioning that because I think it's the first time I've done it. And I'm mentioning it because I think it has health benefits, and it does. I'm seeing how much it would affect consumption, especially at food. Not eating for 3 days, you can imagine the savings that you will have, and the reduction of the need for agriculture, which is a massive cause of greenhouse gases and climate change. And anyway, that's another thing that we can do that will help our health and fight climate change. So, as we all know, we have the United Nations, which is an intergovernmental organization that has the job of maintaining international peace and security in the world. It was formed after World War II, and almost all the countries in the world belong to it, 193 nations. So they are helping everyone, trying to help everyone face this global problem of climate change. And so within that, the United Nations is the IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So let's see where they are at today and what's going on. So the United Nations, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is calling on all leaders of the world to come to New York on the 23rd of September. And they are supposed to have concrete, as it says here, realistic plans to enhance their nationally determined contributions by 2020, in line with reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 45% over the next decade, and to net zero emissions by 2050. So by 2030, a reduction of 45%. And by mid-century, the world is supposed to be emitting zero emissions. Now, he has appointed a special envoy for this summit coming up in New York, Luis Alfonso de Alba. Now, he has quite a job at hand, and he is to ensure that the world has the tools, the vision, the political will necessary to move forward on ambitious climate action for benefit of all aspects of society. So the UN has put this guy in charge of influencing all the governments to take action. And we know what this massive job ahead is for the world, and we're going to look at that today and review. And it's quite an undertaking, and it is why that people do not want to face or even talk about climate change, because we'll show you what it's going to take. Now let's look at that. And I guess I should also mention, as most of us probably know about the IPCC's recommendations, that in 12 years, but now it's 11 years, by 2030, we need to make sure that the increase in global average temperature is well below 2 degrees Celsius. And even they really want 1.5 degrees Celsius above industrial levels, which used to be 1750, but now it's 1850, I believe they're using. So that is the key. If it goes over that, they think we will have extreme problems in the world. We'll go into that later. So we are already going to see these kind of global warming is already going to happen. We know that, but it's just a matter of slowing it down, stopping it to not go to 3, 4, 5, 6 degrees Celsius increases in this century. That would be devastating to ecosystems around the world for sure. So today I'll just go over the website for this Climate Action Summit that is coming up and see what they have to say. Now, it states that there must be a full transformation of economies in line with, I think they mean, the Sustainable Development Goals. So this is it's going to bring together governments, private sector, civil society, local authorities, and other international organizations to develop ambitious solutions in 6 areas. So we'll go over these 6 areas. I also would like to say that this is radical change in motion. This means ending subsidies for fossil fuels and high-emitting agriculture, and shifting towards renewable energy, electrical vehicles, and climate-smart practices. It also means carbon pricing that reflects the cost of emissions, from climate risk to the health hazards of air pollution. And it means accelerating the closure of coal plants and halting the construction of new ones and replacing jobs with healthier alternatives, so that the transformation is just, inclusive, and profitable. So it's just a massive undertaking that the world has to face. We all know that. Now let's look at these 6 areas. Finance. All right. Mobilizing public and private sources of finance to drive decarbonization of all priority sectors and advance resilience. Energy transition, accelerating the shift away from fossil fuels and towards renewable energy, as well as making significant gains in energy efficiency. Industry transition, transforming industries such as oil and gas, steel, cement, chemicals, and information technology. 4, nature-based solutions, reducing emissions, increasing sink capacity, and enhancing resilience within and across forestry, agriculture, oceans, and food systems, including through biodiversity conservation, leveraging supply chains and technology. 5, cities and local action, advancing mitigation and resilience at urban and local levels with a focus on new commitments on low-emission buildings, mass transport, and urban infrastructure, and resilience for the urban poor. 6, resilience and adaptation, advancing global efforts to address and manage the impacts and risks of climate change, particularly in those communities and nations most vulnerable. Now they've added 3 additional key areas also. Mitigation strategy to generate momentum for ambitious, nationally determined contributions, and long-term strategies to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement. Also, youth engagement and public mobilization. To mobilize people worldwide to take action on climate change and ensure that young people are integrated and represented across all aspects of the summit, including the 6 transformational areas. Also, social and political drivers to advance commitments in areas that affect people's well-being, such as reducing air pollution, generating decent jobs, and strengthening climate adaptation strategies, and protect workers and vulnerable groups. So we all know this is a massive undertaking, and it goes against a lot of the way the world works. And so this man, the special envoy, has quite a job to convince governments and leaders and everyone else to start taking action and do this. So that's about it for this show. We have other conferences and climate weeks in Asia and Latin America coming up before this September 23rd Climate Action Summit in New York. And I'm sure everyone knows what this undertaking is that we are facing. And I don't think we should give up hope, obviously. And talk about it. Do whatever you're compelled to do. We just give it attention. And don't deny it. Don't be in denial about this. I mean, the United States is very vulnerable to floodings. We've had events happening already that are not anything compared to what the possibilities of that could happen to the United States, given extreme temperature warming and changing of climate. This is very serious, and it's a call to action, and it's a wonderful thing for us to do, and to follow the United Nations recommendations and their aspirations for the world. And I hope that we can do that. So until next time, thank you for joining me on Living with Climate Change. I mentioned I do have a podcast that I put these shows on podcast now. So if you want to listen to those. Anyway, I may make more shows that are just directly podcasts. Okay, thank you. See you next time. Bye.